weekend, I get to reunite with lots of my pals. I'm really enjoying the radio we're doing here at WNST this week. This next guest is not only a defending champion here, but a guy I consider a friend. We worked together at Sporting News. Back at the turn of the century, we were with Papa Joe Chevalier. That's not a bad Papa Joe now, is it, Rick Ballou? It's pretty decent, isn't it?
Not bad. Rest in peace, Papa Joe. I don't know if he'd be happy anywhere unless he was in Las Vegas or somewhere where the temperature would be 80 degrees or more. Probably be happy this weekend in Jacksonville. As a matter of fact, that's the first time I ever met Papa Joe. Would have been probably circa 1996 or so.
Wow.
And Joe rolled into Jacksonville with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, horrific.
Because he's a Pitt guy, and he was doing, he was one-on-one sports, and then I went there a few years later to join him, and he was an interesting guy, that Papa Joe.
Dude, love Papa Joe, man. Miss him. I mean, by the way, he lost a bet with me. I wrote this in his eulogy. I wrote an online, beautiful piece for him summing up the Papa Joe I knew. We made a bet the year the Ravens beat the Steelers and then won the Super Bowl that he owed me dinner at Byrne Steakhouse in Tampa and a dessert room visit. You ever been to Byrne Steakhouse in Tampa, Rick?
Been to a lot of places in Tampa. I have never been there.
Look it up. It's kind of famous, and they have they have the biggest wine collection in the world. So it could have gotten really expensive for Joe.
Joe could have afforded it.
I think that's why he was trying. Well, it depends how he bet last night in Vegas. But Rick Ballou is here, my dear friend from Sporting News. We're reminiscing about Papa Joe, so that brings a smile to my face, even though he was a Steelers fan at this point. Look, man, we're coming down to Jacksonville, and I'm getting down there early. My wife's taking the weekend off. I'm not golfing. I'm not doing anything crazy. Florida State's not home. Florida's not home. I'm just coming down there to see the scene. I'm going to get to the game early, which, I've been to at least a half dozen Jacksonville Jaguars games, maybe 8 or 9 over the 21 years, because we played you guys every single year for the first 4 or 5 years, so I was down there every year. I'm expecting a different experience. Work me into that, and then we can talk some football, Rick.
Well, it'll be interesting. 2 weeks ago, it was outstanding. That atmosphere against Green Bay was as good as anything I've seen, probably going back to the late 90s. And, they won a playoff game. They knocked up Pittsburgh in 2007. That was a nice year. But I'm talking about AFC championship season runs in 96 and in 99. The place was nuts then. It really had that feel. Obviously, Green Bay travels well. They probably about 20,000 fans with them. But it was jam-packed. It was a beautiful day for football. It was hot. It was 108 degrees on the field.
Ugh, that's when you need the pool, right? That's why you put the pool in, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that pool was rocking, and everything, was going on. It was a fantastic game. The Jags had a chance to win it on the final drive. They burnt some timeouts and some miscues as far as the play calling. So, they let that one get away, and then they just completely laid an egg last Sunday in San Diego. And, the fans are fickle. They've been patient for too long. They want a winner. The reaction Sunday and Monday and Tuesday was it's not going to happen. Then you move through the middle of the week and you get to Wednesday and you look at Thursday and Friday and things change where all of a sudden these fans who didn't want to return are all of a sudden getting a little bit excited. So I still think it's going to be a real good atmosphere. There's 0-2 on the year. That's tough to turn around. We know since 1990, only 12% of 0-2 teams have made it to the playoffs. But I think you'll see when they take the field on Sunday that come 1 o'clock, these fans will be ready to go.
All right, Rick, let's get on to the field here and the week. Now, Ivory back, but the left tackle situation has to be disconcerting, especially coming off just a hideous effort in San Diego. Dare I say same old Jaguars, but, signs of life were nil last week. And where are the signs of life that you've seen, at least through this training camp, to say, here are some players that I heard about on draft day that I'm actually going to hear about on Sunday when we play the Jaguars?
Yeah, I still can't figure this one out. And I think it's a team that doesn't win a lot, and you can make the case that they left that loss against Green Bay back in Jacksonville. I thought they would win on the West Coast, and they have struggled mightily on the West Coast. We left on Friday, got there an extra day early, enjoyed the weekend in San Diego, and they were ready. They were prepared. They just didn't come out and play hard. You mentioned Beachum. That's a huge blow. He's back from the reconstructive knee surgery. He got kicked in the head. He's been in the concussion program all week. We'll see if he can do anything. I would be surprised if he does. Ivory's a big blow as well because, he's that guy that can run between the guards for you. He led the AFC a year ago in yardage after contact. The translation there takes a guy or two to bring him down. TJ Yeldon, the disappointment there is that he goes down often enough with arm tackles. And, if you could avoid that arm tackle, you're looking at another sizable gain on the other side. He just doesn't have the wiggle or the ability to break that individual tackle. Now, Ivory doesn't have the movement, doesn't have the east to west explosion that Yeldon has, but he can get you those tough yards. So if he can go, that's a big added bonus overall for the Jaguars because Nasty, 28 carries, 72 yards in 2 ball games. I mean, they're not running the football. Defenses know that. They become a one-dimensional team. They're passing it once again. They haven't been going to A-Rob early on. Julius Thomas is a guy that last year at this time was injured. He's doing some nice things, but it just almost feels like this offense right now is either stop or slow because they're not able to run the football.
Rick Ballou joining us here from Jacksonville, Florida. You can follow my pal at Ballou1010XL. He is a sports talk show host down in Jacksonville at 1010XL as well as 92.5 FM. Also on the sidelines for Jaguars games with Jaguars Radio and was out in San Diego. So you've been to San Diego and Jacksonville both this week. Is Jacksonville the San Diego of the East, or does that not ring true 25 years later for you, who escaped the brutal winters of the Northeast to go down there into the sunshine and play golf and watch football? That's what you did, right, Ballou?
There's no doubt. I made that move going to Tallahassee first and then over here to Jax before joining you in Chicago.
And all you did was bitch about the weather in Chicago. Be honest.
You know what? Chicago had great eats. They had great restaurants, great culture. And I wasn't Papa Joe. I didn't complain about the weather each and every day. But once the time was up, I was happy to come back here. Is it San Diego? No. I mean, to me, San Diego may very well be the best place on this planet. I just love San Diego.
Yeah, I was talking to Eric Weddle about that earlier this week, and I always say the worst day of any year is when you got to get in the cab and go to the San Diego airport and leave. Even when you're there for games, and we've played out there. Dude, we played there 8 or 10 times, I bet, in 20. We played there a lot. I mean, there was a period of time we were playing there almost every year. And you go out there, and, the game's going on, and you've got the flight after the game, and you're bumming that the game's coming to an end because your trip's coming to an end. Then they tried to take the team out of there, so.
And you can't go wrong. I mean, you can do the beach, you can do La Jolla, you can do the Gaslamp. You can do it all, and it's a great time. Jacksonville's a little bit more hidden. It's about the nooks and crannies. It's about finding, the right spots that work. I think this is the golf capital of the world. You got 35 outstanding golf courses here in Jacksonville.
How many days a year you play golf, Rick? I mean, do you play?
I play this time of year. I got a new shift in. After 7 years of going 3 to 7, I just recently switched up noon to 3. It's given me more opportunity as a divorced dad to spend time with my young girls who are 11 and 14. But
Beautiful.
On days that I do not have them, bro, I'm squeezing in 9, and that often turns into 12 or 15. I'm going a couple times a week. The off season much more, but I mean, you've got 35 really beautiful golf courses, in this area. So if you love golf and you love good weather, man, you can't go wrong here in Jackson.
But what if I like good football and a running attack and, a quarterback? Where are you with Bortles? I mean, I don't know where to judge him because when you're not running the football and when you're not blocking, this is trouble. And we hear so much about Bortles and everyone falls in love with him in the offseason and then the season begins and you're looking up and saying, well, where's the Pro Bowl quarterback I keep hearing about?
So there's two different opinions on Blake Bortles. Number one, 35 touchdown passes a year ago. Others will say, all right, but 32 of those were thrown in the second half. And for the most part, those second half touchdowns were thrown when what? Jacksonville was trailing. They were a one-dimensional team. Defenses were probably in the prevent, allowing what was in front of them and, not giving up the so-called big play. The other side as well would be, only 35 total points that the Jaguars scored in the first quarter of the 2015 season.
That's 16 games. That's 2 points a quarter, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one of those is a defensive touchdown. I mean, you're talking about 35 points in 16 games in the first quarter. There's no doubt that Sunday, Baltimore's up 7-0. They're up 10-0. It's just all a question of, can the Jaguars bounce back? So they did against Green Bay. They put up 7 points, in the first quarter, which is basically unheard of around here. Blake Bortles does some real nice things. This is his second year with Greg Olson. I think you got to give him a little bit of credit and leeway there. If you go from his final year at Central Florida to 1 year with Jed Fish, then 1 year with Greg Olson, he's running a brand new offense each and every year. So the continuity has returned this season. But again, he's had some injuries on that offensive line. He hasn't had Chris Ivory in the backfield. I still think he's going to end up being a real good quarterback, although he did not play well last week in San Diego. Let's make no bones about it. That was a very disappointing game for Bortles.
On the defensive side, Rick, these guys we hear about, the Ramseys and the Fowlers, I mean, every year in April, I say this, the Jaguars are one of the winners of the draft because everyone puts the draft on at the beginning, and you watch the first 10 picks, and the Jaguars got another guy that's going to go to 5 Pro Bowls and get a third contract. They're going to build a stature. And then the season starts, and the thing dissipates a little bit. With Ramsey, I get a feeling it's going to be different. Certainly, the Ravens really wanted Jalen Ramsey.
Unbelievably talented player. I've watched every game he's ever played at least twice because I watch the game live or possibly live if I'm on the road, then come back and rewatch it as a Florida State grad. And he is sensational. I mean, he can do it all. He played 3 different positions at FSU, and they've kind of worked him here at 2 positions. I mean, they have him starting at nickel, but then all of a sudden you have the suspension to Aaron Colvin, and in week 2, Prince Amukamara is out, so you have him starting at corner, and then you move him inside in obvious pass situations. He's extremely physical. He likes to talk. He's outstanding against the run. He will get beat once in a while, and just about every good corner does, but he does allow big plays here and there. He's only going to get better. One thing you really got to look at here, Nasty, and people need to consider this, is you're talking about 5 guys that are playing on this Jaguars defense who have never played in the National Football League. Fowler missed all of last year. Ngakoue backs him up out of Maryland there, Unique Ngakoue.
Go Terps, go Terps.
Yep, Miles Jack's trying to get on the field. He got some garbage time late. He's playing special teams. That'll happen eventually. And then Sheldon Day out of Notre Dame in that rotation at DT, along with Jalen Ramsey. So you're taking in 5 guys who have never played before. Then you add the enormous contract of Malik Jackson, and I'm lucky enough to do a Tuesday show with him. He's an outstanding human being and well-paid. Deshaun Gibson and Prince Amukamara. Bro, you're talking about 8 guys that you're leaning on, 5 of which have never played before, 8 of which are not aware or used to the Todd Wash defensive scheme.
Well, and they're all high-ceiling guys, right? I mean, I go back to the 96-97 Ravens era, back when we met, and there's Boulware, and there's Lewis, and there's Sharper, and, here comes a Kim Herring, and, young players. That's a nice recipe, but it's not when you're Gus and you've had 3 years of inherited 12 and 30 that I always hear the record that comes up. Now the record's 0-2. I don't know how they're going to fare this week, but I don't know how much longer Shad Khan is willing to go if this team this year is 5-11 or 4-12, and quite frankly, a division that they should be okay in. They should win 8 or 9 or 10 games this year based on some coin flips. They shouldn't be getting blown out of games. Look, I looked at this on the schedule and said, this is a tough period. We have you guys this week. We got the Raiders next week. I looked at Jacksonville and Oakland as 2 of the AFC teams that were on the come. Teams that could win double-digit games, could be a wild card, could win a division if things broke right because of the quarterbacks and because of the pedigree of the other guys around them. I like young players. I like young quarterbacks, but then they got to go out and actually do it.
It's interesting how things have turned. After last year with a 3-game losing streak to wrap up the season, the feeling was, all right, Gus is really feeling it, yet he's going to get another year. They go out, they make some moves in free agency. They have a real strong draft. I mean, take away everything. If I was just to say to you the Jaguars are going to get Jalen Ramsey and Miles Jack after all the time we spent with mock drafts, are you kidding me? They got 2 great football players there, and the pressure was on. Again, they played very well against Green Bay, but to see what they did last week, I think it was the worst moment in the Gus Bradley tenure, and that's saying a lot. You're talking about a coach who's 12 in 38.
He's been in a lot of airplanes with you flying home after losing because they didn't have enough football players. I mean, no offense. Like, I've seen the roster. We played you guys a couple of times last couple of years. I mean, there's nothing to speak of there. Now I see names I recognize. I see talent. Now you got to produce, right?
Yeah, you have to. And now he's feeling it. And, there's some around here who believe that if they lose to Baltimore, and then they go to London, as we will travel there next week, and lose to Indianapolis, a divisional foe, with the bye week after, he could be gone. If they're 0-4 and they could promote offensive line coach Doug Marrone, who, of course, has had some success as a head coach in Buffalo. I don't believe that because I think Caldwell and Gus are together in this. I thought all along he's got to win 8 to 9 games. Well, now you're 0-2, so that means you got to go 9-5 the rest of the way, or 8-6 the rest of the way. That's not easy. Starting 0-2 is a disaster for this franchise. But down there this week, they're saying all the right things. That he hasn't lost the team. They're still saying the right things, and that's also privately. That's also off the record. I mean, publicly, you know how it is. Always the right thing is going to be said, unless you have completely lost your club and you want him out, then a guy may pop off. But you're not getting it as well off the record from the players. You're not getting it privately from the players. They like Gus. They want to win for Gus. They like him to stick around. But it's time. They need to start winning some football games.
He is Rick Ballou. He is in Jacksonville. We've been friends for these many years, going on decades now. He's Ballou, Ballou, 1010XL, down in Jacksonville. Let's get to some baseball here, dude, because you're a Red Sox guy. I'm in Baltimore. We used to have some fun with that back in the day when the teams were maybe a little bit more competitive, before the falling off and the Red Sox went and won titles and my wife went and got jerseys and rubbed it in my face. This crowd situation with Camden Yards, dude, you did a national show for a long time, man. You were a decorated guy. You would take phone calls from all over the country. I don't know if this is a national story, but it's borderline on a criminal act for us here in Baltimore. No one's going to the games. No one cares about the baseball team, and they've been in the race all year. It's weird.
Yeah, how did that happen? I mean, listen, I grew up in Boston, but I mean, I'll sit here and talk Al Bumbry and Ken Singleton and how Doug DeSenseis came in after freaking Brooks Robinson and Boog Powell, and I'll talk about 4 pitchers who won 20 games in 1 year and getting Stanhouse up in the bullpen and Tippy Martinez and Denny Martinez. I mean,
by the way, Tippy was at our golf tournament on Monday, so I want to give Tippy love. Tippy Martinez, love you. Appreciate you.
There you go. Mike Flanagan from nearby New Hampshire. I mean, are you kidding me? Outside of Carlton Fisk, who has ever come out of New Hampshire? Mike Flanagan. Yeah, this really bums me out. I'm an old-school baseball guy, and I loved it when there was the 2 divisions and you played for the pennant. And to me, it was always Boston, New York, Baltimore. Those were the 3 who were getting after it. And I've been to Camden Yards. I'm trying to think the year we played in the old Memorial Stadium. Rob Johnson, he played so well against the
that
Ravens.
Was 97. That was 97, yeah. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, he played so well against Baltimore that he created a trade with
Buffalo,
with the Bills on draft day, which led to Fred Taylor. And it was because of that performance there at the old Memorial Stadium.
Marvin Lewis says you're welcome, by the way. So does Ted Marchibroda, the late, great Ted Marchibroda.
But I went over with a couple ex-players that day. Tom McManus, who's still a buddy of mine, a former linebacker, and also Ben Coleman, and a few other guys. And we walked in. We got there like the 4th inning, 5th inning, and the gate was somehow open in right field. And there was an interleague game against the Mets, a very high-scoring game. It was my first look at Camden Yards. And again, at that point in my life, I had been in Fenway probably 150 times, and I don't think I had been to another Major League Baseball stadium. I might have been. I think that's probably Atlanta would be the only other place I had been. So at that point in my life, it was the 3rd Major League Baseball stadium I had ever been to in person, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just absolutely fascinated and blown away by the architecture, by the way it sat in that city. I was out there in right field, right in front of the warehouse, and I just fell in love with the field and I love baseball. It's my favorite sport outside of hockey. And I can't believe what's going on there now. I mean, listen, Dan Duquette is a guy who will get ripped on for a few moves he made in Boston, like Roger Clemens. Hell, he also went out and got Manny Ramirez.
It's been 20 years. Get over it. You won championships. Come on.
He did great. He did some great work. I like Dan. I know him personally. I see him every year in spring training when I go on my spring training trip. I'm surprised. You and I talked about the beginning of the year when you started 7-0. You really don't have the pitching on paper. You have murderer's row offensively. I can't figure out why Baltimore doesn't support baseball.
Well, I've written tombs about it. I've covered it for 25 years, and, the owner's not doing a very good job with the franchise.
Well, I know that.
That's really the truth. I mean, he's just not doing a very good job with the franchise. Not with sponsors, not with people, not with human beings. I have been defecated upon for the better part of 2 decades, personally, through 2 leukemia battles with my wife, and I did a baseball tour. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, you talk about Mike Flanagan. I mean, that is a dark, dark, awful memory for me on that night, and for anyone else who loved Mike Flanagan. So, there's a lot of pain associated with being an Oriole fan. And more than that, the raising the ticket prices and sending out the season ticket books and the renewals in February, the Chris Davis tax, as it's called around here, that stuff's not popular, man. And it's not cheap to go to the ballpark. And jacking up prices when the Red Sox are in town, jacking up prices when the Yankees are in town, jacking up prices just because you feel like jacking up prices on game day, making people pay more. It really has become something here, and I don't know that it's fixable at this point, because I don't know that young people specifically, and I know Adam Jones talked about it being a white man's game. I don't know that kids in Baltimore are ever going to be baseball people, and we have something here that they don't have in a lot of places. Blue, lacrosse is a big deal here. So not only is lacrosse a big deal here, lacrosse is a big deal amongst white people here, and there are children, and you have a choice when you're an 8-year-old kid in Cockeysville, Dundalk, wherever you are. They can either put a lacrosse stick in your hand and you can hit people over the head and throw a ball, or they can give you a baseball glove and a bat and tell you to go out in right field and pick daisies, and maybe you like baseball. Maybe you fall in love with baseball. But we all fell in love with baseball because we fell in love with the Orioles, and it was part of my life that is so intrinsic to my life. It's why I know you. It's why I do sports radio. It's why you do sports radio. And yet we're at this real crossroads where, remember when the old men with the stogies, Baloo, would wax about horse racing and how it's going to come back?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just saying, man, I know those cats. I knew those people out at the racetrack that always said, it's a phase. They'll all come back. Well, losing here was a phase too, and now they're winning. And as I've written, winning isn't good enough. Winning in a $14 ticket. You know how I know it's not good enough, Baloo? The ballpark's been empty all week. It's been empty all month. It was empty for the Blue Jays. It was empty for the Red Sox. It'll be empty for the Diamondbacks. It will not be empty for the wild card, but they already started by scalping the box seats out on StubHub this week. I noticed that. If you got $400 right now, you can buy a wild card ticket, but if you want a seat on the roof, you got to wait for them to price them up.
Yeah, you know what? That's disappointing. It really is. I mean, to see the Blue Jays come in, what a lineup that is. I mean, Big Papi, his final games ever at Camden Yards.
Yeah, you don't want to see Porcello and Price pitch? I mean, come on, man, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't have an answer for you. I know you've had a thing against Angelos for quite some while.
No. I don't have a thing against him. I got a thing against the things he does. And, he's got a thing against me. I love the baseball team. So it is different than that, than me having a thing. This isn't – the stadium's empty. That has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? Like, I take no credit or blame for that. That's customers saying we don't want to come and see your game tonight. I mean, that's his problem to fix it,
It's expensive. It's expensive to go to games. But you look at certain markets, don't say that to those fans. They want to go. They'll do everything to go. I just wish that was the case in Baltimore. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, being from Boston, I grew up on Red Sox Orioles baseball. And, talking Orioles Red Sox teams from the 70s with a 6-pack of beer and a stogie is one of the favorite things that I can do. I mean, just sit around talking about classic games and classic times and great races, but when there was no wild card, when you fought all year to win and go play for the pennant and to get to the World Series. And, that's what it was all about.
Do you need me to pull my 1973 autographed Boston Red Sox baseball out with Rico Petrocelli and Orlando Cepeda and Luis Tiant and Carlton Fisk and Diego Segui and Rick Burleson? It's before Lynn and Reichs. They didn't get there for another 2 years. But, man, I mean, dude, I love baseball. I love it. I live 2 blocks away. If you just look over my shoulder, it's 2 blocks away. I can walk and go to the game anytime. And I'm taking my wife to see Poppy on Thursday because she's into it, but I can't. No one seems to care to go, and we're asking, and it's crime, and it's kids in school, and it's ticket. It's all of that, but you'd rather do something else with your time or your money.
Yep.
That's really what it comes down to.
We know what it is. The games are too long. Okay, it's not popular in the United States. It's too boring. The foreign explosion. They're going to Venezuela and Cuba and they're going to the Dominican Republic, and they're getting all these players from other countries. I've heard the argument about, percentage-wise, blacks are not into baseball right now. It's not in the city. It's not in the suburbs the way it once was. It's all a shame. But, I think free agency hurt it. I mean, we just sat around and talked about guys, they were born and raised. Maybe you made a trade here and there, but for the most part, they came through the farm system. And they played their careers there, and then they got knocked out of it late in their career when someone else younger came in and was better. Free agency, I think, hurt it. I think other sports has hurt it. I'm not sure.
The strikes probably didn't help either, by the way, right? I mean, my dad, the strikes didn't help things either.
No.
All of the strikes.
We started with Papa Joe Chevalier. He's a perfect example. Papa Joe Chevalier, the late Papa Joe, never went back. And I remember talking to him because I would go on after him. I said, Papa, come on. You got to come back. You see him what Sosa's doing. You see him what McGuire's doing. Oh, they're all on the juice. The ball is juice. The bandbox stadiums, they lower
Listen,
them out.
Baloo, I've been watching these games since you were alive, before you were alive, all right? A baseball doesn't go that far. Listen to me when I'm telling you.
But how great was it? Yes, all those things are correct, and that whole era cheated. But how great was baseball? For those who loved it, they went back. But baseball, just like hockey. Hockey's strike was bizarre. Hockey never should have left ESPN. It was great to see the World Cup on earlier this week. I
get Gary Thorne every night, by the way, Baloo. We get Gary Thorne every night.
I interview him every year. I interview Gary every year during spring training, and half my interview ends up being on hockey. I'm there to talk baseball, for crying out loud, and I got to go hockey with Gary Thorne. But ESPN and the strike hurt hockey. It also killed baseball. There's a large contingency of fans to this day who have not gone back to baseball since the strike.
Rick Ballou is in Jacksonville, and I will visit with you again. I love having you on. Love our friendship. Love having some fun with you. I'm so proud of you and happy that you're doing the thing with the Jags down on the field and having a good time and living a good life and hitting the golf ball down. You got it all figured out, Ballou. You really do.
Yeah, it's a good life, and it's always a lot of fun to talk with you. Look forward to seeing you out there at the ball game on Sunday.
I hope we're 3-0, and at some point, some Baltimore people have access to the pool, and apparently I've been invited to the pool. So if I can tweet from the pool, I'm going to tweet from the pool.
Well, that sounds kind of fun.
Where else do you get a chance to do
I'm
that?
up there looking. I'm not usually looking for guys like you, but maybe I'll make it a point to do that this weekend.
I did get in the pool in Miami, out in the Clevelander bar at the baseball ballpark down there, that zoo they have down there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be the first time I've been in a pool at a major sporting event, right?
Very cool. Yeah, no doubt about it.
No,
it's a lot of fun up there. I was up there for when they unleashed it 2 years ago, a Carrie Underwood concert, and I had my little girls up there, and they were in the pool having a heck of a good time. So I'm sure you'll have fun out there as well.
89 and sunny down in Jacksonville all weekend, and even sunnier with you. Appreciate you, Ballou. Thanks for coming on, my brother.
All right, we'll see you, Nasty. Take care.
One of the all-time greats, there he is. He did our evenings at Sporting News Radio back at the turn of the century in Northbrook, Illinois. Came on after me and after Papa Joe. He is Rick Ballou. You can follow him at Ballou1010XL. That's where he does his thing down in Jacksonville. He's got a lovely picture of the whole Bowden family on the front of his Twitter. And he is a Seminole. And now that we're not in the ACC anymore, I didn't even give him a hard time about Louisville kicking their ass. I probably should have done that, but at least late in the interview, I should have done that. You can find me out in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app, becoming crystal clear from anywhere you are. I'll tell you where we're going to be next Wednesday night. Alex Lewis, Ryan Jensen from the Baltimore Ravens joining us at Greenmount Station. We'll be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry, talking some football, eating some crab cakes, having some fun at Greenmount Stations. Come on out to Carroll County, Hampstead, say hello. The Oriole game will be on as well. They're playing the Blue Jays. Kind of a big game, kind of a big deal. We'll be watching. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.